no more, no more aching away on yours. Hey there, welcome back. I'm David Cordero and you are watching another Pass the Guitar live song tutorials. And in today's video, we're gonna cover this very popular song by Jason Mraz, I'm Yours. But before we move on, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and also click on that bell. With no further ado, let's dive right in. First of all, let's take a look at those chords. We're gonna be using G major, D majors, E minors, C majors, and also A7s. That's all the chords. But before we move on, I have to let you know that if you want to play along with Jason Mraz with the original recording, you're gonna have to use the capo on the 4th fret. But for the purpose of this video, I'm not gonna be using a capo because I want everybody to be able to follow along. All right, let's dive into the strumming pattern. Before we go into the strumming pattern, I have to tell you guys that we're gonna have to use a technique of muting the guitar just for one beat, for one specific hit. We're gonna be using this side of our hand right here close to the palm, and then we're gonna touch the strings, all the strings, so that we mute the sound. You can slightly touch or you can hit it a little bit harder, just don't hurt yourself. All right, now that we know that, let's listen to that strumming pattern. 1, a 2, a mute, a 4, a 1, a 2, a mute, a 4, a 1, a 2, a mute, a 4, a down, up, down, up, mute, up, down, up, 1, up, down, up, mute, up, down, up. That's it. You heard the mute there. It's gonna be even more noticeable when we plug in a chord. So let's use G major and play the same strumming pattern. Don't forget to mute on the 3rd beat. Here we go. 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, a 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 1. You probably noticed that it doesn't sound straight. It has a swing to it. It's a shuffle groove to the rhythm that we are playing. Just keep that in mind, all right? So now that we know the chords and we know the strumming pattern, let's take a look at the form. And this song comes packed with a lot of parts. Intro, verse, choruses, interlude, bridge, and outro. But don't worry, it's a lot of parts, but for most of the song, we're just gonna be using one chord progression, and it's this one. As you can see, this is an 8-bar phrase, which means what? We're gonna play 8 measures and then it repeats all over. So this is what we're gonna be using for the intro, for the verses, for the choruses, for the interlude, and the outro. There's only 2 exceptions, which is in the end of verse 2 and in the end of the outro, we're gonna have measures of A7. So as you can see here, this is verse 2. We have 2 measures after the 8-bar phrase of A7, where you're just gonna play it once and hold it for 2 measures. And in the outro, it's just the last chord that you're gonna play is an A7, right after that same chord progression. So let's actually go over this chord progression. We have starting here with a full measure of G major, followed by another measure of G major. And then after that, we have 2 full measures of D major. First one, second one. And then after that, we have the 2 full measures of E minor. First one, second one. And then we end with 2 full measures of C major. First one, second one. And then obviously, as you can see, this is verse 2. After we repeat this whole thing, we're gonna hit A7 and hold it for 2 measures. First measure being held for the second measure. All right, now that we went through this and we know the chord progression, let's try to play and plug in that strumming pattern. And don't forget, we're gonna play this chord progression 2 times. And since this is verse 2, we're also gonna hit that A7 and hold it for 2 measures. Here we go. 1, a 2, a rest, a 4, a 1, a 2, a rest, a 4, a 1, a 2, a rest, a 4, a D, a 2, a rest, a 4, a 1, a 2, a rest, a 4, a E minor, 2, a rest, a 4, a 1, a 2, a rest, a 4, a C major, 2, a rest, a 4, a 1, a 2, a rest, a 4, repeat, a 2, a rest, a 4, a 1, a 2, a rest, a 4, and D, a 2, a rest, a 4, a 1, a 2, a rest, a 4, an E minor, a rest, a 4, a 1, a 2, a rest, a 4, a 1, a 2, a rest, a 4, and last, a 2, a rest, going to A7, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's it. That's all we're going to be using for the majority of the song, with the exception of the bridge, which we're going to cover right now. Let's take a look at it. As we can see, the bridge is also an 8-bar phrase, different from the other 8-bar phrase that we're using for the rest of the song, but it's also an 8-bar phrase. And this starts with a full measure of G major, followed by a full measure of D major, followed by a full measure of E minor, and then back to a full measure of D major, and then 2 full measures of C major. First one, second one, and then ending with 2 full measures of A7. And second one. That's it. So now let's plug in that strumming pattern and see how it sounds. Don't forget that the last measure of the bridge is actually a whole note. We're just gonna play it once and hold it for 4 beats. It's gonna happen the same way when we repeat. So the strumming pattern we're only gonna be using for 7 out of the 8 measures of the bridge. Here we go. 1, a 2, a rest, a 4, a G, a 2, a rest, a 4, a D, a 2, a rest, a 4, a E minor, 2, a rest, a 4, back to D, 2, a rest, a 4, 2 measures of C, a 4, and a 2, a rest, a 4, A7, a 2, a rest, a 4, and whole note, 2, 3, back to G, 1, a 2, a rest, a 4, D, a 2, a rest, a 4, and E minor, 2, a rest, a 4, a D, a 2, a rest, a 4, and C, a 2, a rest, a 4, a 1, a 2, a rest, a 4, and A7, 2, a rest, a 4, and ending on the whole note, 2, 3, 4. And that's a wrap for today's video. But hey, if you liked it and if you want to dive further into this song and much more, join us over at passtheguitar.live. There is a link in the description. I know you're gonna love our community. My name is David Cordero, and this has been I'm Yours by Jason Mraz.